Today is Tuesday, August the 10th, and what we saw in the markets today in the three different US indices was a bit of like shuffling chairs on the deck. Um, the Dow went up and then went flat. The Nasdaq went down. The S&P was jiggy all over the place. So the three markets were not, and usually you see the Dow and the S&P doing the same thing. Didn't happen today. The tech stocks obviously suffered. So what did well? What did well was the industrials. And I'm going to show you Caterpillar, which we've been talking about for a while. But first of all, the Dow Jones did make a new high. The Nasdaq did not, pulled back. The S&P 500 finished at a previous high. So failed to make a new high, but didn't fall back. And the volatility index continues to drop, indicating, of course, that there is less fear out there than one would think. Apple started off with a great day and then pulled back. The winner of the day, of course, was Caterpillar, but look where it stopped. If we get rid of this box, because this box was the one to watch between the 200 and the 50, if this stock breaks through the 50, and its high of the day today was, let's move that green line right up there, even below the candle. So if we break the 50 and the Chiku span breaks out above these candles, although we have resistance here, there's nothing wrong with Caterpillar trending for a little while. Look at the stochastics. The longer term, the slower moving one, which we showed you yesterday, was at the bottom. It started to move up. This faster moving one is moving up, and you can see that it can, it can take a while to get to the top, and it can give the slower one time to move up with it. There will be ups and downs, but the one to watch is this slower long-term one as it starts its move upwards, because it's been at the bottom now since June 24th. So I added more Caterpillar today on the initial jump at the open and was rewarded with that. So I'm pretty much, I would say, at a full position. I used to hold twice as much as I do right now. I still have some cash in this retirement account. It's also the account that holds SAVA Biosciences. So I could deploy some to Caterpillar. Pretty good dividend stock as well. Banks had a great day today. Look at JP Morgan breaking away from the cloud. Look at US Bank breaking off of the 50. NEO had a bit of a pullback, but came to rest on the 50. So that's a good sign. SAVA hit this Fibonacci high that we had before. We talked about it yesterday. Why is it a good Fibonacci? Because when we drew it, it was confirmed by a pullback to the 61.8 after a touch of the 138, and now it stopped at the 100. So these are good Fibonaccis. But I've layered onto this the weekly Woody's pivots. And I did that after looking at 5-minute pivots. This isn't a good one. Let me get rid of some of this and just show you pivots. Let's get rid of this. Here's the daily pivots. Now let's zoom out and let's put in all of the pivots. Show all pivots. This is Motive Wave, beautiful product. Look at how it traded today. Came back nearly to the pivot point, stayed at resistance 1, and then just channeled a little bit before hitting resistance 2. But yesterday, look at how it came to resistance 2, resistance 1. The day before, could you say the pivot points were important? Not so much, but you could say that they were important here, where they jumped off of resistance 1, played around resistance 2, then went up to resistance 3. We've got other days where they're a factor as well. Here's one right here, finished at resistance 1 after rejection on resistance 2. Where's another one? Maybe not there. Here's another one. Resistance 1, resistance 2, pulled back to resistance 1. So what I'm saying is that SAVA although it's a stock that has moved in both directions quickly because it's a biotech stock and it's subject to news, it's trading within the pivot points. So that's why I decided today to look at the 1 week pivots. Let's put those back. This is the end of the video, so I'm just going to talk about SAVA for a second and what I did with it. So let's go back and let's put in the pivots. These are daily pivots. Let's change them to 1 week pivots. And I said, if it's a stock, and it's Tuesday, so the week is, 40% over. If it's a stock that trades within the pivots, maybe on a weekly basis, its high might be 114.62. So I sold on all of my shares enough calls to cover with this week's 110s, and I sold them for an average of 440. So anything below 14.4, and I'm okay. I'll cash out with a pretty darn good profit because my average cost is in the 80s. If it stays below 110, I get to do it again. If it crashes down, then I've got $4.40 for every one of my shares to cover a bit of a pullback. So I was holding SAVA naked, no short calls, and that's not the way I trade. I held them for about 10 days, saw that I was building up a decent profit, and thought, well, what's the chances of news coming out in the next 3 days that will rocket this stock? Don't think so. So I sold those calls on my stock for 440. I'll be glad to walk away at 114 with all the profits. If it jumps up higher, I won't be happy, but this is a type of stock that is jiggy, and we could see it come down again, and that's when I'll get back in. There's a long time to play this stock before it gets FDA approval.